When I found out I was going to be a parent, I immediately felt a lot of anxiety and worry. So I went on to BetterHelp to try to look for a therapist to help me with that.
My relationship with my family and with my boyfriend and with myself were suffering. I really needed help.
I was ruminating a lot. Really getting those thoughts out to a therapist and getting feedback was just life-changing.
Discover what BetterHelp Online Therapy can do for you. Visit BetterHelp.com today.
Support me on Patreon, patreon.com/mtgbooks. Chapter 17, The Metathran Pincer. Thaddeus stood at the head of his Metathran army and gazed across the desert of Koilos. Koilos, this was holy ground. Here the Phyrexians had been first driven out of Dominaria. Here, Urza and his brother allowed them back in. These two events were father and mother to the Metathran, the only parents they would ever have. When Phyrexian bloodlust mixed with Dominarian terror, the Metathran were gestated. Over the last 1,000 years, they had one by one been born. As strong as rhinos, as tireless as fire ants, as loyal as hunting hounds, as sterile as mules. The Metathran were raised to maturity, trained in weapons, natural and otherwise, and stored away like stockpiled arms. In slow time caverns, temporal loops, and cryochambers they were kept. Chill cradles, these had been, made less so by dreams of this hot desert and the battle over this holy place, Koilos. Here the Phyrexians would be driven from Dominaria. Thaddeus breathed deeply. The dust of Koilos entered his lungs, and, from there, his blood. The scent of Phyrexian glistening oil filled that breath. In well-ordered companies, the Phyrexian army filled the vast desert below. Scuda, bloodstocks, and troopers stood arrayed on the outskirts, ready for an all-out charge. Behind them lay the main encampments, fortified with miles of trench work. The ditches had been dug by giant Phyrexian worms. Beyond it all was Koilos, a broad, dark plateau of stone above a wide cave. That throat descended into the belly of the world. From it issued a constant tide of monsters. Beautiful monsters. Thaddeus ached to slay them. He understood and appreciated these foes. Their bodies were as huge and superbly twisted as his own. Thaddeus' own sagittal crest and brow ridge were designs Urza had modeled after Phyrexian craniums. These modifications made the head a ramming weapon and allowed for powerful jaw muscles that could deliver a severing bite. Thaddeus' face was augmented with stronger bones, leaping muscles, and fangy teeth. His chest and arms bore the powerful benefits of Bruin architecture. Equine implants bulged his legs. Thaddeus and his army were as unnatural beasts as the Phyrexians they'd been designed to kill. There was but one difference. The Metathran fought for good. The Phyrexians fought for evil. Otherwise, they might have been brothers. Lifting his hand in a visor over glimmering blue eyes, Thaddeus gazed out beyond even the caves of Koilos. There, Agnate and his Metathran troops arrayed themselves. Agnate was his true brother. He and Thaddeus were biologically identical, trained together, meant to fight as an opposing pair. Though 100 miles of desert and 100,000 Phyrexians separated them, Thaddeus could hear his brother's thoughts as if they were his own. Advance? Nodding in agreement, Thaddeus lifted his hand in a long arc. Advance! He strode down the desert embankment. His boots pounded the ground. Dusty ghosts rose. In the next moment, 40,000 other boots stepped into the march. The ground trembled under their tread. The tremor rolled down the slope and beneath the feet of the waiting Phyrexians. In their midst, the wave of noise crashed against another wave sent from the army of Agnate. The Phyrexians would be caught in a war on two fronts, the Metathran Pincer. They would writhe in that claw but never escape. They would die. Thaddeus marched in the midst of his personal guard, 8 warriors, 4 to either side. Each bore a Power Stone pike, which could pierce even thick metal, shred whatever flesh lay beneath, and drag itself clean through. Power Stone swords rode their hips for closer combat. Daggers at their ankles awaited intimate engagements. Similarly arrayed Metathran troops spread all along the front line. They could receive a full-out charge if the Phyrexians made any move. So far, the monsters remained in their ranks across the center of the desert. They were smart. They did not want to charge up a hill, nor to spread the already long front farther. Still, it meant Thaddeus and Agnate ate up easy ground on either side. The noose tightened.
Halt!
Thaddeus called as they reached the base of the hill, just within stout bow range.
Archers, to the fore!
The shout echoed down the line. The march snapped to sudden stillness. Archers flooded ahead. They formed 2 lines, front ranks kneeling. From powerful shoulders, they unpacked stout bows that could shoot over a mile. The shafts they knocked were 6 feet long and tipped with Power Stone chips devised to seek Phyrexian oil blood.
Ready!
Thaddeus called.
Loose!
10,000 bowstrings shuddered. 10,000 arrows vaulted into the sky. They moaned as they went. Their thick shafts arced hungrily upward. In moments, those huge black arrows were so high they seemed starlings. The shafts reached the heights and descended in deadly hail. They roared down toward the lifted heads of the tightly arrayed monsters. Soon, 10,000 of them would be impaled. The shafts entered a silvery cloud. In an eye blink, they dissolved.
What is this?
Thaddeus wondered aloud. The silvery cloud rose, following the path of arrows that had taken. It arched above the desert, coiled down toward the Metathran army. The swarm shimmered as it came. It descended with the same speed as the arrows.
Battle flies!
Thaddeus warned.
Lift shields!
The order shout out among the troops. Thaddeus and his personal guard yanked the shields from their backs and crouched beneath them. The battleflies fell. They cracked against the metal like hail from a tin roof. Where flesh was exposed, the metal wings of the beasts clove. Ears and noses and fingers were severed. Razor wings sliced through brows and embedded in the skulls beneath. Shoulders were masticated. Metathran, who had awakened after 500 years, died in instants. The moments after were filled with jittering and deadly swarms. Thaddeus reached gauntleted hands out from beneath his shield and crushed battleflies as if they were deer flies. The living Metathran all around did the same. Razor wings fell to the ground. Soon the swarm had thinned enough that the warriors of Dominaria stood and smashed the killing creatures beneath their boots.
Forward!
Thaddeus ordered, pointing his sword across the desert. Leaving their brave fallen where they lay, the Metathran army surged toward their waiting foes. If anything, the lacerations across their tattooed faces only whetted their appetite for Phyrexian blood. Swatting the last few battleflies that followed them, the warriors marched double time. Pikes and swords ran red. Soon, they would run golden.
Why haven't they moved?
Thaddeus wondered through gritted teeth. He suddenly had an answer. The ground erupted before him. It seemed a volcano had burst from the cracked desert. Dirt hurled out in a pelting spray. In the midst of that fountain of soil emerged something enormous. It had a black hide that jutted hairs as stout and sharp as daggers. A huge mouth formed from 3 triangular lips fronted the gigantic worm. Chunks of rock turned to sand on those lips and slid inexorably inward. Worse, 5 more of the giant beasts appeared to either side, extending in a wall before the charging Metathran. These were the beasts that had dug out the Phyrexian trenches. Now they would dig out the Metathran themselves. One of Thaddeus' personal guard, running with sword lifted high, attacked the beast before them. His blade sank into the mucousy upper lip of the thing. The weapon disappeared to the shaft. A sucking sound followed. The warrior disappeared with it. That mouth, which could pulverize rock and dust, ground the man inward until he was but a red smear on dark lips. The worm lurched forward, its dagger-like hairs driving into the ground. A second guard, hewing at the lower lip of the thing, fell beneath the advancing monster. Hairs pierced him in 100 places. His life gushed out. When the beast landed atop of him, he burst open. Thaddeus roared. He hurled his Power Stone pike into the bloody lip of the thing. The weapon bit true. It had ground muscle to pulp and dragged its way deeper. It dug through lip and oral cartilage. The shaft slipped away further of the pike's gnawing head.
Use your pikes!
Thaddeus commanded. 3 more of the weapons sank into the worm before him. Each pierced and dug and drew itself inward. The beast lunged, bellowing through ruined lips. Hot, bloody breath shot out before it. Thaddeus stepped back. This worm were like every other. Its brain would straddle its elementary tube. It was only a matter of time before the pikes reached it. The worm entered a sudden convulsion. Its head spiked the warriors crowded up beside it. Metathran fell back. The monster sprayed gore as it flopped. All along the line, worms were dying. One by one, they issued last gasps and dropped to stillness.
Form up!
Shouted Thaddeus, dragging a hand across his crimson face. He pointed to avenues between the dead hulks.
Form up! Advance!
Thaddeus led his troops between dagger walls beyond the Phyrexian forces still waited. They were cowards, hiding behind battleflies and worms. What would it take to goad them into charging? Perhaps they would simply wait for the Metathran to overrun them. Thaddeus was glad to oblige. The first flood of Metathran had only just cleared the field of dead worms when movement began along the Phyrexian lines. Their advance line charged. Oh, but the cowards. They did not send the true Phyrexians even now. That line of rushing things, it glinted metallic. Artifact creatures, machines, and what strange machines. They were perhaps 4 feet long with a snake-like central body made up of metal nodes in a line. The things scuttled rapidly forward on metallic legs, their tails jutting up like scorpion stingers above them. They seemed mechanical centipedes, simple-looking beasts with no apparent weaponry except for that barbed stinger. 1,000 of them broke from the Phyrexian ranks and undulated forward. Thaddeus strode to meet them. His Power Stone pike was gone, now chewing its way through the dead hulk of a trenchworm. His Power Stone sword was out. It gleamed in his hand as he charged. All along Metathran line, blades flashed. These creatures did not so much seem centipedes, but metallic spinal columns. The lines converged. With a glad shout, the Metathran met beasts they could at last fight. Thaddeus did not shout. He was too busy dodging aside. A war centipede launched its stinger at his face. He swung his sword. Steel flashed, striking the giant bug behind the stinger. The blow sparked on hard metal, slid and caught the soft copper cables that strung them together. With a flash of arcane power, the blade severed the creature's tail from its scaly body. Momentum carried it on. Metal knobs crashed into Thaddeus' chest, knocking him back a pace. Spikes along the centipede's back scourged his shoulder and neck. The artifact creature tumbled in 2 writhing halves on the ground. All around Thaddeus, the desert was alive with twitching hunks of centipede. Among them lay many slain Metathran. Their mouths had been sliced open, and pulpy blood disgorged from them. Corpses shuddered as if something were crawling through them. There was no time to see more. Another centipede hurled its stinger at Thaddeus. He was slower this time, gritting his teeth in determined fury. He dragged his reluctant blade before him. It sliced only air. The beast vaulted over the sword tip and struck Thaddeus' face. The blow made his vision go white. There was a sharp, strange looseness in his lower lip. Next instant, his sight returned. With it came blood, his own blood, in a crimson cloud. Wrenching his blade up in a desperate defense, Thaddeus hewed the centipede in half. It spun, crippled, in the air and dropped by his feet. Thaddeus chopped at the wriggling thing and managed to slice it into 3 more pieces. Dripping, Thaddeus reared upward. His face bled profusely. The centipede had sliced through his lower lip. His gums were cut open, exposing the roots of his teeth. He would heal quickly enough with hyperclotting, regenerative flesh, and blood storage sacs. The wound angered him. Thaddeus lashed out at another centipede, but was too late. The thing launched itself at a nearby Metathran. The warrior met the attack with a cry. Darting past his sword, the centipede drove its barbed tail into the warrior's mouth. With whip-like legs, it thrust deeper. The warrior goggled in astonishment as the creature wormed quickly down his throat. In moments, the head of the thing clutched the man's severed lips. Eyes going dark, the Metathran body dropped to his knees and fell on his face. His body twitched, his mouth gushed pulpy blood. Why would anyone, even Phyrexians, create such a monstrous machine? There were easier ways to kill a man than to drive a creature down his throat. A sudden, wet snapping sound came from the fallen man. Grisly spikes popped out of the skin all down his back. The Phyrexian centipede had replaced the warrior's spine. Dead as a slab of meat, the Metathran moved and rose. Horribly, it rose.
Zombies!
Thaddeus managed to splutter through his torn lip. They were all around him. Thaddeus wheeled. His sword hacked into one of the zombies, a former member of his personal guard. Thaddeus' blade cut a chunk out of the undead warrior's belly. That was not enough. He stepped back and swung again. The zombie's head bounded free. No blood came. Drained already. In the clean cut, Thaddeus could make out the severed esophagus and windpipe, the sliced centipede that had become the warrior's spine.
Zombies!
Thaddeus shouted in warning to the other Metathran that pressed up behind him.
Slay them!
The order spread quickly down the line. Living Metathran hewed into unliving ones. These warriors were bred to follow orders. They did, destroying their former comrades mercilessly. Even so, emotion had not been winnowed out of them, and these warriors, every one, felt the acute dread of the slaughter.
I once believed we were like the Phyrexians.
Thaddeus thought, sending the idea across the battlefield to his distant brother. He paused to cleave the corrupted brain of one of his own men.
Now I know how truly different we are.
There came no direct answer, but Thaddeus sensed that his counterpart agreed. Egnate and his forces even now fought the same horrible, desperate battle. With a glad heart, Sabotavik watched the carnage. It was exquisite to feel the plunging rupture of the spine's descent through flesh. It was delicious to wander the dead minds of the spine-grafted Metathran. There were two of those blue-skinned creatures, two living ones, whose thoughts called to each other. It was a simple enough thing for Sabotavik to reach up and pluck the thoughts from the very air.
"Yes, Thaddeus," she purred to herself. "You are nothing like us, and you will learn all too soon, all too painfully. In my turn, I will learn it as well. I will parse every tissue of you, Thaddeus of the Metathran.